Hello, welcome to Romantic Wednesdays with Poetry. I'm Alisa Agnes, your host, and I believe it's time to get real and spill some tea or coffee. So today I will continue talking about the cycle which is called Black Forest, Deep Forest, and you will learn more about Black Menthol and Prophet today. So at first I will read you this first poem, Black Menthol, and later I will tell you what it's really about. And last summer I've learned that it's a really tough kind of poetry, and during the workshop people had problems with understanding what it's about. So I feel like this podcast and this episode is very needed to understand fully my poetry and my vision. So after such a beginning, I will read you Black Menthol right now. So that's Black Menthol. Spoon of torment, tears sank, pit of blue mouth buried. Bloody flowers will bloom, rotted, knocked out. Worse in harsh night, axes in the aching trunks, red ravens covered in dust, laugh, black menthol on teeth, yellow eyes, clouds suffer, to the wood nothing matter. It's burning, bile is burning, collapsed, numb. Red drops of sweat, saved ground, watered. Pretty land will come down, jazz of peace will blow over. So, it's this poem. It's called Black Menthol. So, at first let me explain what this title means. So, Black Menthol can feel like this new very natural toothpaste made of carbon, and it's actually a really good kind of thought and good way of thinking, because for me it's a symbol of dirty teeth. And when I think about Middle Ages, because yes, this poem is about Middle Ages, I feel like, dirt is like the synonym of Middle Ages. It was a really dark time when it comes to such things like bathrooms and what we do to keep ourselves clean. And this poem is simply all about that, and it's also full of blood, because what really inspired me is the story of wild Lithuanian people who were thought to be a really wild culture. And this poem was simply inspired by Lithuanian, lands, Middle Ages, and dirty teeth. So this is in few words what this poem is about. But let me explain now verse after verse. So the first verse is the only place in which I appear as a poet and writer, and it's more seen in the Polish version of this poem, because in the first line it's more like it's my tears that sing, because I see what is happening and it just makes me cry, because next lines are simply about burying bodies and it's full of blood, because maybe there was some war, and it's about water and flowers with blood, and it's simply all that. The next verse is about a knight, and as I've already said, in my mind it's a Lithuanian knight who maybe wasn't baptized yet, or was but is still feeling all those pagan, culture, and they still simply remember about who they was. And it's simply about the image of this person. It's about axes which were the tool of war, and it was not only about the use for trees, but was just a war tool, as I've already said. And red ravens, it's another metaphor, because a raven is a symbol of death, so red is also the metaphor of blood, and they are covered in dust because there was a war just a moment ago, and a lot of people before Christian times were buried also in the fire, so maybe this dust comes from that. And later we have love, and this night that I've already told you about is laughing, because maybe he really liked killing people. And later we have Black Menthol and Prophet, what is simply a dirt. I wanted to describe dirty teeth in such a pretty way, and Black Menthol was my metaphor. So, in the next verse we learn that he has yellow eyes, and it's another sign of his whiteness. Clouds suffered, the wood nothing matter, and I wrote this like that just because I wanted to rhyme, and it's about the forest, which is kind of unbuffered, that some war was just around the corner, because all that really matters is that plants will have something to dive into and just flourish, and it's some kind of food for the wood. And maybe this forest is also burning. So the last line is about red drops of sweat, and here we have this metaphor of death once again, but it's also about this very tough work of art, which what is, and when I think about all those tools that were used during those wars, all those swords, axes and stuff, it was all very heavy. So the red drops of sweat is about the blood dropping to the ground, but it's also about this this kind of strength that you have to use during killing people. And if you don't know how it felt like, then you can call yourself a lucky person. Well, and this poem ends with lines: "Pretty land will come down, jaws of peace will blow over." So it's simply about this idea that war will end eventually, and this pretty land was pretty before this war and will be after this war. And some people will still remember that people were buried out there, but some will, just go around and feel like it's a really beautiful place, right? And they have no idea that other people's bones are under their feet. And this is simply what this poem is about. As I've already told you, it's about white people of Lithuania, and it's about war. It's about nature, which is taking advantage of this blood and those buried, bodies. And it's about maybe a burning forest. So yep, it's a bit dark perspective, but it was inspired by a series, and I guess it was inspired by real history. And I am a history addict and I really, really love history, and this poem is simply all about Middle Ages. And I also have to tell you that Middle Ages weren't so dark as it may seem, because in areas that were far from wars, it was all about writing books, manuscripts, and I saw some of them, and they were really beautiful. And despite something that we call, dark times, Middle Ages, it wasn't so dark after all. And these books are just an example, and I just wanted to let you know, because maybe you don't know, and it was something new that I've learned during my studies as well. And one more thing, I probably didn't say it yet. So Black Menthol, also this is this kind of idea that comes from, as I've learned, from this a very different hygiene. I heard that people didn't have a toothpaste as we have, but they had some kind of little branches or something like that, and they were using that to clear their teeth. So it wasn't such a black time as it seems. So another poem is called Prophet, and it's not so far from this kind of image that I just painted you, but just hear out this poem and later you will learn more about this. So this is Prophet. Lungs shrinking from the calf, a dull crunch plucked my ears. I've seen the apocalypse, I've seen the face of death, I've seen the fire, I've also seen angels, and nobody listened to me. So this is this poem, and it's given a Cassandra kind of vibes, and let me remind you that it's a person which comes from the mythology, and she was some kind of prophet who was able to see such terrible apocalypses coming, and nobody ever listened to her. And obviously I was reminded about this person by Taylor Swift and her song, but it wasn't actually my inspiration for this poem, because I wrote this in 2019 when I was very, very sick. So these first lines about lungs shrinking from the cough, dull crunch plugged my ears. So it's a very real kind of story, because for a month I had problems with with breathing, and I was actually totally deaf for my both ears. I mean, I couldn't hear anything, like literally, because I was so sick. And during those tough times when I felt like I don't know if I'm gonna make it, I had this very dark dream about literal apocalypse, and I wrote this poem after seeing those images in my dream. So it was literally a apocalypse. I saw fire there, I saw death, I saw angels, I saw all of that. And when I woke up, I felt like it's the metaphor of the future. And later, when we found out about the pandemic in 2020, then I was kind of sure that I predicted this during my very sick kind of state. And well, when I was already feeling well, it was 2 or 3 months later, and I felt like maybe this COVID, it was my experience as well, and maybe that's why I survived and I am here right now, because I simply maybe dealt with this virus before anybody could hear about this. And maybe this dream about apocalypse meant this whole situation that happened on the whole world. So it was a literal apocalypse, but it wasn't made of fire or angels, I guess, but it was full of death. And I guess a lot of people who are listening to me right now lost something or know someone who experienced this awful illness. And if you survived this, I'm really glad that you can listen to me. And I also came through this, so I know how you feel, if it makes you feel better. So that's all that I can say about this poem. And this episode got kinda long. And I guess it's time to slowly end this. And now I will tell you what to expect in the next episode. So the next poem is called The Return. It's a very short poem, but the second one, Italian Thanks, it was written for such a project that I had at the university, and this poem is kinda long, and it was challenge to write this in Polish, because it was about all those words that were borrowed from Italian in 16th century. And I just tried to convey this story that I created for this poem in this English translation, and I hope you like this story that you find in the next episode. And it will be the end of the 8th cycle. So right now you know everything, so I can only tell you until the next time. Yep. Bye.